But Spider-Man was the coolest. To me, there was all the other superheroes and there was Spider-Man.
Hello and welcome to the Cancelled Movie Report, the documentary podcast series that talks about the best movies that Hollywood never made. My name is Michael Campbell and I will be your host, but joining me again for this second part, as always, is actor and comedian Eden Porter.
Thank you for having me, Campbell.
Now, this is part 2 of our report on James Cameron's Spider-Man. So, if you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you do that first. But if you need a little reminder, here is a quick recap of the story so far.
Important to note that one of the producers, a guy with the last name Golan, from Canon Films, insisted that even though it no longer belongs to Canon, he insisted that he must stay on as a producer. Peter, you're going to be late! It's morning, and she's calling up the stairs to Peter Parker, aged 17. Peter daydreams about the girl across the room, Mary Jane Watson. Now, Mary Jane is going out with one of the school's top studs, Nathan McCready, aka Flash. Stinging pain and sees the spider and he smashes it. He stands there rubbing his hand. He goes to Mary Jane's house. He drops down from the roof and looks in her window like a creep.
This is massive stalkering.
Now, Peter figures there must be some way to make some money with his newfound powers. He gets another piece and writes, Spider-Man. Nah, he turns it over to write something else, but then he turns it back. A booking agent sees him and wants to put him on public access variety shows, the kind of a gong show of weird acts. Now, a figure is watching from a high-backed chair, watching the amazing Spider-Man on his variety show.
Find out everything you can about Spider-Man. Yes, sir.
Doing their spider project together, Peter and Mary Jane bond. So, through a row of bushes, we see Flash grab Mary Jane by the arm and spin her around. They are arguing. Flash slaps her across the face.
What?
Flash spins and sees a guy in a black fishnet mask. He punches Flash so hard that he flies 10 feet. Spider-Man is leaving backstage when he's approached by the most beautiful woman he's ever met, Cordelia. There is an address and a time for a rendezvous if he wants to learn more. Enter Sandman.
It doesn't say enter Sandman. No, it doesn't.
Enter. Peter kicks Boyd in the face, but his face dissolves again into sand, which runs down, his whole body losing its form, dripping into a puddle of sand which drains through the grates down into the tunnels below the alley.
And now, let's get back to the film. Now, we're back with Peter, and he's been doing his TV show rounds. But the TV shows can't pay him in cash, so he has a sleazy booking agent cash checks for him. Peter goes in to collect the money, but the guy is broke, out of business. Sleazy agent says, "Go ahead, you want to call the cops, call them. I'm sure they'll be happy to press charges for you the second you take off that stupid mask and show them some ID." Peter is leaving, and he encounters a robbery in progress.
Can I just say, before we get to the robbery,
Yeah.
that was a great accent.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's very good. You've been working on that. I can tell.
Sleazy Agent has been the character I've been living with these last few months.
Yeah.
Between season 1 of Cancelled Movie Report and season 2, I've been slipping in and out of Sleazy Agent. Now, as Peter's leaving, he encounters a robbery in progress on the same floor. The thief is wearing a ski mask. Peter notices the thief has a tattoo of a cobra on his hand. What? It's just something so he recognizes it later.
Oh, okay. It's not Cobra Man.
No. It's just like, you know how they need to have a thing, so then later he's like, oh my God, it's
There's
the Cobra tattoo.
Yeah.
Which again, I think happened in the Andrew Garfield movie, right? He's looking for a tattoo.
Oh, yeah, because you remember seeing it when he goes to... Yeah, you're right.
The thief runs past Peter and down the stairs. A security guard runs up, a fat guy with no chance of catching the criminal. He recognizes the Spider-Man costume. He tells Peter to go get the guy because he can't. Spider-Man says,
That's not my job.
Peter secretly changes and returns to the parking lot to meet his Uncle Ben. Only to find a small crowd of people gathered around someone lying on the ground. It's his uncle. He was shot in the chest by a carjacker who pulled him out of the car and took off. Peter watches him die before the ambulances get there.
Uncle Ben.
He tracks the guy down to a warehouse and goes in to get him. He drops into the room and the guy laughs after he sees him. The killer says, These are James Cameron's words.
Okay, not yours.
Wow, the fag and the tights.
Oh,
We keep bumping into each other.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a product of the time.
He grabs the killer and slams him against the wall, probably for that slur.
Yeah, you're probably. Yeah.
We don't use words like that anymore. Wanting to pound the life out of him, he hauls back his fist to smash the guy's face in. And suddenly, he sees the cobra tattoo on the back of the man's hand. Cut to 2 cops driving through the park. Spider-Man drops down in their headlights with the killer over his shoulder and tells him that he is the killer of Ben Parker. Peter expects to see some justice done, but the cops try and arrest Spider-Man too. What? He fights them off and escapes. I like the idea that he was definitely going to kill that guy.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh wait, no, you're the one that robbed the guy. I'll let you off.
Yeah, well,
Like,
yeah.
it's a,
Man, he's a young teen. He's confused.
He's
He doesn't know what's going
confused.
on.
He's coming all over his bed sheets. Now, the local TV station owned by J. Jonah Jameson runs a story in the evening news about the 2 cops that were assaulted by a mysterious character known as the Spider-Man. Spider-Man becomes a one-man anti-crime wave. One night, he sees cops beating the shit out of a guy. That's what it says.
Whoa.
And he intervenes and webs up the 2 cops. Now, Spider-Man is officially a wanted criminal. And now, as a felon, he can't make any more public appearances for money. He's back to square one.
Oh, no.
Broke.
And without an uncle.
Peter is working with Mary Jane to finish up the science project.
That's
Discovers
still going on. This entire time,
Yeah.
this science project has been going on in the background.
Now, here's the thing.
It's quite a subplot, this
He
science
discovers
project.
that Mary Jane is quite a fan of Spider-Man.
Well, that doesn't make sense because we already know that she would never date a man spider.
She thinks that he is mysterious and romantic.
Oh my god.
Now, what evidence does she have for romantic?
Romantic.
He's done nothing but beat criminals to a pulp.
You know, the way that he smashed Flash's head into the car is very romantic.
When Flash awoke from his coma,
Oh, yeah.
he gave me a very detailed account. Now, he follows her as she is walking home, spying again, obviously, when suddenly a group of punks approach her. And they start attacking Mary Jane, who swoops in. But Spider-Man, he fights off all the punks and he rescues Mary Jane. Now, a very similar scene to what appears in the Sam Raimi film.
And also, who would have played the punk? This is a James Cameron film. Would have been Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Always playing Jim Cameron
Come on,
punks.
man.
Nice night for a walk.
Now he takes her to the top of the 1964 World's Fair in Flushing Meadow Park. With the confidence which the mask gives him, he kisses her through the fabric.
Oh, so this isn't a roll-up
Yeah,
kiss.
yeah. It's not the
this
sexy upside down in the rain
No,
kiss.
this is just face on fabric.
Upside down kiss. That rain must have been going straight up his nose.
Was he? There was yes.
Yeah,
There was
nightmare.
correct. No, but
Nightmare.
no. But spiders don't allow water up their noses.
Well,
It's-
Mary
it's
Jane would
just-
never date a spider.
Yeah, okay, this
she's
is
made
true.
that clear.
This is true.
Now, Peter, in costume, goes to the rendezvous point that was given to him by Cordelia. He's met by Cordelia and Strand. This begins the most important relationship of the film. That's what Mr. Cameron has written.
Okay.
Strand is looking for others like him. He describes finding Boyd, who is doing nickel and dime bank jobs with his new powers as Sandman. He explains Boyd's origin, similar to the comics. It's like he's got a sick daughter and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he apologizes for Boyd's behavior the other night, but he felt it was necessary to get Spider-Man's attention. Strand says that the whole Spider-Man costume and character are pretty juvenile, and he wants to know who he was really talking to here. He asks him to remove his mask, but Peter won't.
Oh, good.
Cordelia comes on to Peter, trying to get him to relax. Strand watches as Cordelia does her thing.
Is that her superpower?
Sexiness.
Yeah.
With sexiness and
It's
wetsuits.
wetsuits, yeah. I can make anything sexy, even wetsuits.
Now, this is... James Cameron won an Academy Award for screenwriting, right, with Titanic?
Yeah.
He says Peter gets a bad vibe.
End of scene.
Strand takes him aside and says if Peter joins him, he can have his fills of Cordelias. They come with the territory.
Hang on,
Probably
there's
that
multiple.
pile of dead women. in
yeah,
wetsuits.
they're all Cordelia.
Yeah, the Cordelia type.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
They're
They've
the
got-
beauty.
They clone all the Cordelias, and they've got Cordelias on tap.
Strand holds a light bulb by its base between his two fingers. He holds it over Peter's head and makes it glow.
Starting to get the idea.
No, it doesn't. No, no one would actually shoot that. Hey, it looks like you've got an idea above your head, Spider-Man. No,
Spider-Man's like, wait, I'll do that. The fingers on the chin, and I'll rub my chin, and you hold the light bulb over me.
All right, man.
Spider-Man says he's not interested in a girl with values that are screwed up.
Wow,
And-
said like a 17-year-old.
And he's not sure he likes Strand anymore either. Strand blasts Peter across the room with a bolt of power, stunning him. He tries to remove Peter's mask, but Peter fights back. He dodges energy blasts by leaping to the ceiling, the walls, etc. That's Academy Award-winning screenwriter, Mr. Cameron. Now Boyd comes in, and the carnage intensifies. Peter gets zapped and almost loses consciousness. He shoots a web, snagging a huge aquarium and topples it over in an explosion of glass and thousands of gallons of water which cascade around Strand's feet. Spider-Man escapes.
Because water.
Yeah.
Actually, water's good against sand and,
And
electricity.
electricity.
There you
Yeah,
go.
onto something, Peter. And also more property damage by Spider-Man.
Yeah, big time, big time.
He loved explosions of glass. That's how it described the Porsche being smashed as well.
It's weird as well because it seems like anyone gets powers if you're just like hit with something. Like it's like the Sandman. He's
Yeah.
like in the sand field and he gets hit by
Yeah.
something. Lightning gets hit by. I'm surprised someone didn't get hit by that water tank there and was just like, now I've got water powers.
That's the newer streamlined origin of Aquaman.
yeah, good.
Someone pulls an aquarium on top of him. Spider-Man escapes. Strand picks up some of Peter's stray webbing. He pulls on it with all his strength. He can't break it.
I've got an idea. Holds light bulb above
With
it.
4 M's for those that are
Wow,
interested.
that's a lot of light bulbs.
Yeah, he holds it up above his head.
And then another one.
Strand begins a campaign to win Spider-Man.
To win him.
To get him on his side.
To win him over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though it just says to win Spider-Man.
Okay, I was going to say, Jim,
Like at a
you missed
fair.
a couple of words. Yeah, exactly.
First, he buys a TV station and gives J. Jonah Jameson the unlimited budget to bash Spider-Man. So he wants the public to hate him, and he wants Spider-Man to have no other options.
So this is like him becoming Alex Jones.
Yeah, a little bit. This is what Strand says to J. Jonah Jameson.
Here's what you'll do. You will fixate on Spider-Man. You will devote every program solely to him. You will not rest until this psychopath is arrested and his identity is revealed. He is a menace to the public. Trust me, your ratings will soar.
This is, we'll call the network Fox News.
Because I was like, the more you know.
Fair and balanced.
Yeah, it's becoming like a Rupert Murdoch type.
This is exactly
Well,
what's
he's
going on.
a big player.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a mega player.
Mega player, sorry. Now, Peter's costume got wrecked in the big fight with Strand and Sandman. Can't be fixed. He goes looking for a new suit and, incredibly, Spider-Man has become so popular that his costume is available in specialty stores for $120. They even have his size. Peter shrugs and buys it. What the heck? It's better than his old one anyway.
So how meta is this then?
Yeah.
His costume only came... It's like a paradox. It's like the grandfather paradox.
How'd you get the costume? Did you make it or buy it? Well, funnily enough, I made it, so then they made it, and then I brought it. Now, Aunt May can't make the house payments on just her Social Security check. No. Not now with the medical bills piling up.
Wasn't Ben had life insurance?
But here's the thing. It says now with the medical bills piling up. It doesn't necessarily go into what that is.
Yeah, whose medical bills?
I don't know. Someone's.
Well, yeah, our faculty.
Now, during one of the crime-fighting nights, Peter discovers $20,000 in 20s and 50s sitting on a coffee table of a drug dealer's house. He's just dropped in on. He's hovering on the brink of going over the line, of becoming a criminal himself. He sees the opportunity right in front of him. It would be so easy. He leaps out of the window with the money.
Oh, what? He took it?
Cut 2. next morning. A parking lot in a bad neighborhood. Suddenly, hundreds of bills come fluttering down
thank God.
into frame like green snow. Scattering far and wide on the wind, kids chase the bills up and down the blocks.
What was I gonna do? Track down all the crackheads and give it back? Anyway, I figured there's more than one way to be a saint in this world. But I gotta tell you, even fighting Sandman was easier than turning that bag upside down.
So he's done the right thing.
Thank God,
You
Spider-Man.
think,
Oh, man.
you know, Jim.
Jim.
he
Yeah,
he loves morals and he loves values.
They're right
and
there,
he's
mate.
going to instill them into Peter. I mean, he does beat people into within an inch of their life and spy on ladies, but he won't take money.
No, he's not going to take money. And you know what? He says it's easy to take that money, but really, you've got to get that money cleaned. You've got to, like, you can't show the tax. You've got to, like that's a whole nother film. If he actually takes
Is he going to ruin... But, like, even if he dumps it, is he going to ruin the economy of that small neighborhood? A large injection of cash can be
Exactly.
dangerous.
Yeah. Think of the prices. An apple, $20.
And then that area becomes, like, gentrified, and then all the rich white people move in, and then they're out of homes.
And then, thanks, Spider-Man.
Now, cut to Mary Jane doing a TV interview. She's introduced as a local high school girl who has actually met and talked to the Spider-Man. She's come forward and she says,
Debating Spider-Man is taking in the media is outrageous. He saved me. He is a hero. He is kind and gentle. And we should be thankful that he is here.
Yeah, because I saw him beat the living shit out of Flash. That's how I know he's gentle and kind.
but I just want to reiterate on TV, I would never date a spider. I want as many people, I want to broadcast this as wide as I can. Now, Mary Jane...
So is this on J. Jonah Jameson's show that she's
Yeah,
doing
I
this?
guess so. Because I guess, like, Strand owns the media now.
Yeah.
Mary Jane goes alone to her private spot. She's sitting, thinking, when she hears something behind her. She turns as Spider-Man drops down to her. She gasps, startled with his sudden presence. She feels a rush of
He brings
excitement.
presents.
Yeah.
Suddenly.
No, with his sudden presence, she feels a rush of excitement as he offers her hand to help her up. He says,
Do you trust me?
Where are we going?
It's a surprise.
cut to the Brooklyn Bridge. A stunning aerial shot, a tiny shape swinging in an arc, racing past the supporting cables, sweeps towards us. It is Spidey with MJ in his arms. He shoots another Strand and swings once on top of one of the big towers.
Yeah.
And he races up the side and he places Mary Jane down on the bridge.
Oh wow.
Very tender.
Very
Romantic.
gently.
Now, in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, we had the iconic upside down kiss, which is the romantic scene that was it became like a touchstone of pop culture.
Yeah. There's a
Would
lot
you
of that
like
going
to
on.
hear James Cameron's version of this?
I'd love
Can
to.
I warn you, before you listen to this, you cannot unhear what you're about to hear, and it is the weirdest thing you'll ever hear.
Yes.
Courtship among the spiders is highly ritualized. It varies from species to species. The male spider may circle the female or wave his front legs to signal he is not prey.
Spider-Man moves in a hypnotic arc around her. He raises his hands in a dance-like movement.
The female usually signals her willingness by an uncharacteristic passivity. In certain crab spiders, such as Xystisticus, the male will attach strands of silk to the female, tying her limbs. Since the female can break free at any time, the bonds have only symbolic significance.
The male must be very bold to take such liberties with the predatory female.
Yes, he is bold, but he must also trust her. Close your eyes.
Wow.
That is Academy Award winning screenwriter Jim Cameron.
With it's spider sex scenes.
So just a second. What
this
the hell was that?
is
It's spider
Are you
bondage.
kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I loved it. Like, it's such a clunky scene of dialogue trying to be sexy, but he like names species of spiders.
There is nothing, I think, categorically, there is nothing less sexy than naming scientific species of spiders.
And the fact that, like, I love our voice actors, but boy, we give them a challenge
Oh, big time.
to try and make sexy the phrase "the predatory female." Must be very bold.
That is quite possibly the worst sex scene I could ever think of. He's doing like the fact that it even mentioned that he was waving his hands around in some sort of like
He had him in the
hypnotic
air,
state.
like he just didn't care.
This is insane.
Now, we've had some weird sex scenes on this show
Yeah, big
before.
time.
I think this takes the case.
This is right up there
Because-
with Arnold Schwarzenegger bursting out of a dead donkey in Crusade. This is right up there with weirdness.
This is right out there with Praise Allah
Yeah.
in the middle of through the throes of passion from that movie. Here's what this screams of to me. James Cameron, whatever the mid-90s equivalent of a quick Google of spider mating rituals.
Yeah.
Copy, paste into script right above Peter Parker as like dialogue box.
That's 100%. It's just like, this spider like ties them up. This spider is like gentle but not. This spider, it's such a. I was surprised they didn't go with like, and now the female bites off the male's head.
And here's just a little peek behind the curtain, right? Because we send these scripts off to voice actors, and sometimes we work with them, and sometimes they'll deliver things, and we'll power to our cast for not coming back being like, what is this?
I'm not doing this.
I'm not saying
doing
these
this.
lines.
You can't make me say. There's no money in the world that will make me say
I
this.
love our voice cast so much, but oh man, the things we get them to do, and they.
That is right up there. That is right. How dare you, Cambo? How dare you?
Yes, we do now have a tender bondage spider themed sex scene on top of the Brooklyn Bridge.
You know what? And then her thousands of babies come out of her and start consuming her corpse.
Well, you want to know how much Mary Jane loved it?
How much?
We cut to Mary Jane at school the next day. She's humming happily as she lets a tarantula walk over her arm
no way.
in the science room.
She's got to think of spiders now.
Gotta think of spiders
How
now.
quickly
Remember,
doth
she didn't
forgets-
like them, and now she likes them.
Now she
That's
loves
called a
them.
character arc.
Oh, okay. So that's her big character arc.
What? Okay, this is crazy, right? The female characters in this are almost non-existent.
Criminally underwritten.
But it's weird because James Cameron, I would say, is quite known for very strong female leads.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know, he wrote Alan Ripley in Aliens. I even like Sigourney Weaver pops up in a lot of these things. Sarah Connor is like an iconic. Like, it's crazy. Again, I think he's working out some stuff. We had a similar theory when it came to Indiana Jones. That like there's some personal issues being worked out here, and I know that James Cameron did get divorced at some point in the 90s. Maybe this is what's happening. I don't know. We cut to Strand in his luxurious living room. Boyd is showing him a videotape that he shot the night before. It's shaky, long lens shot, quite amateurish. That's just a bit of a critique from acclaimed filmmaker James Cameron.
He's
They were amateur stuff.
This looks shit. He's made of sand.
He didn't have a dolly. He didn't have a
can't do it.
crane.
There's not a pan inside.
Now, we see Spider-Man drop down to MJ, startling her, and then him and MJ kissing. Finally, he hoists her up in her arm and swings off into the darkness. So they've spotted Spider-Man has a connection with this young teenager, Mary Jane Watson.
And then he goes, I've got an idea. It's got light bulbs everywhere.
Quick, put the light bulb on. Get me a light bulb.
Stat.
Sandman comes to MJ that night and puts her to sleep. Doesn't play out.
Excuse me, what was that?
That's so. He comes
that
to
one
MJ.
of his powers now?
No. The next sentence will explain it. When the chloroform wears off,
Oh, okay. Yes.
she wakes up at Strand's place. But
Mr. Sandman, send me a dream.
bum bum bum. Blah. But again, like, not the best written sentence, is it?
No. I'll give him a break.
When MJ turns up missing, Peter goes to her house. He finds traces of sand in her room. He figures out what has happened and he arrives at the mansion in Midtown. He searches the mansion, can't find them, but he finds Cordelia dead. Strand was in a hurry. He didn't have time to jumpstart her
Oh no.
after their farewell kiss. I don't know about the Strand character.
He sounds like a terrible individual, leaving a bevy of dead women behind him.
And he's a villain. What has he got? A huge bank of TV monitors all show the same image. It's Strand's smiling face, held in pause from the VCR.
VCR, which is a technology that will never dent. Yeah, good on you, Jim.
Peter hits play. Strand pulls Mary Jane into frame with him. I just want to say this. I love a villain that's kind of meticulously planned. So he's obviously recorded this message, put in, he's like rewound it to the point that he needs to be at. He's clicked pause, like, all right, now when he comes in, this is going to look real cool.
I see it more as a comedy scene with Sandman trying to pause it. Right. He goes, no, you've got it too far.
No, she's in the frame now.
No, rewind. No, you've got to dub it. You've got to hit play and record at the same time.
Oh no, you're recording over it.
But can I just say though, Electro screams this character seems way more like Green Goblin-esque, like the Osborn.
Yeah, that's true.
It like that sort of really rich, got a big plan.
Yeah,
like,
and he's kind of like this like megalomaniac for power and status. And
that's what Norman's sort of like.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It doesn't really.
Or
feel
Norman
like
to his friends.
Yeah, Norman to his friends.
Mr. Osborn to those.
Mr. Goblin. Yeah, no, but it feels more like that.
That's a great point. Now, Strand pulls MJ into the frame with him. He says, meet him at the top of the World Trade Center, a tower that will never be obsolete.
For it is the only point in the city that shall remain forever. Yeah, good.
A second later, the doors are kicked in. SWAT team members pour into the room. Another setup. The SWAT sees Spider-Man. The body. It looks bad. Spider-Man.
Sorry, boys. Can't stay.
They open fire and Peter leaps, spins, and ducks, barely escapes. On the news, the manhunt for Spider-Man is the top story. His escape from the police, the kidnapping of Mary Jane Watson, and now the murder of Cordelia. It's all stacking up against him. Peter reaches the World Trade Center and he starts to climb. He's racing up sheer metal faces of the two World Trade Center towers like he's never climbed before.
Because they're perfectly smooth.
They're perfectly smooth. That's a good thing about them. He reaches the top of the tower and he comes face to face with Strand, who is holding Mary Jane Watson.
I don't care about her now that you're here. She was just a lure. It's hard to get a meeting with you, young man. Relax, kid. I just want to talk.
About what?
About you. About your career. Think of me as a kind of guidance counselor. See, let's take your chosen field. Hero. See, bad choice. I'm recommending against him.
It's not up to you.
Think about it. You can't save the world. Why? Because you can't save people from themselves, from their own brutal and virulent natures. You're either a predator or prey in this world, a killer or a victim. People are by nature violent, stupid, confused, and greedy. Why waste your gift on the ungrateful masses who would love to see your mask ripped off and see you dragged through the slime? The only thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, screw up. To see them exposed in a scandal, arrested with their pants down, caught with their hands in the till. You know why? It makes them feel better about their own miserable lives. The myth is that people need heroes. People hate heroes. Heroes make them feel bad by creating examples they could never live up to. As long as the media can show day after day that people they respect and admire are just as twisted inside as they are reassured they can face their puffy faces in the mirror in the morning. Misery loves company, and everybody's miserable. You run around in your long underwear, coming off to them like some holier than holy saint. Mr. My socks don't smell. You're heading for a big fall. They hate you. Look, I want this to work out. You're a smart kid. Like the phony bracelets. That was a good idea.
What are you talking about?
Son, I know your secret. See, I had the web material you left all over my living room analyzed. It's real spider silk. You can take off the costume, but you will always be the Spider-Man.
It's actually just Spider-Man.
The point is, you are not a hero. You are a spider. It's something you don't have a choice in. And spiders are predators. They kill to live. They kill to live. They are not hampered by humanitarian ideals or impeded in their lethal efficiency by delusions of morality. They are pure, powerful, as God made them. There are no merciful spiders. There are no vegetarian spiders. It is now time for you to face and accept your true nature. Join me. Together, we can shake this 2-bit planet down to its last nickel. Take what is rightfully yours. You have been given a great gift for a reason. Do not squander it. Take, for example, this.
A huge pallet stacked several feet high with cash.
Of course, I seldom carry cash, but I had Boyd bring this down for demonstration purposes. Much more dramatic than a bank statement, wouldn't you say?
How much is it?
It's about, what is it, Boyd? 250
$1,000?
million, dear girl, million. It's all I have lying around on such short notice. Of course, it's chump change compared to what you and I could do together. It's out there. All we have to do is take it. You know how I get this? It's half a cent here, half a cent there. Electronic transactions taking place millions of times a second, all over the world. Nobody misses it. That's the beauty.
You know, I took some money once. It was easy. It was just sitting there. It was the solution to all of my problems, and there was nobody to stop me. Nobody could touch me. So I took it. And you know what I found out?
What, son?
That there is a line you don't cross. And that sometimes you only find the line by tripping over it the first time you cross it. But once you do, you always know right where it is.
Oh, please. Next you're gonna tell me you gave the money back.
More or less.
This is a disappointment.
Listen, you want to talk about faith? Maybe there is a reason for all this. Maybe I was put here to stop guys like you when nobody else has the balls.
Pretty tough talk for a guy in a dance skin.
Strand grabs Mary Jane. She feels the current running through her. Peter lunges and Strand turns up the juice. Peter stops. Strand grabs her head.
See how my power turns women on?
He kisses her at a high voltage. MJ convulses wildly. She bucks and goes still. Her head falls back. Dead as they come.
What should we do? Call 911?
I'll kill you, motherfucker. You hear me? You're dead. You sick bastard.
See? That is exactly my point. You are a killer, kid. You've got it in you. Why don't you accept that? You want to rip my throat out right now.
Strand puts his hand on Mary Jane's sternum and zaps her with a defib pulse. She opens her eyes weakly. Strand looks down at her.
Oh, I think there's real electricity between us. Don't you?
Peter Parker with the blue language!
Peter Parker does not swear in my book. He does not work blue, Michael Campbell. It's outrageous. So I've got a couple of things to break down here. First of all, could you get a villain monologuing more?
Oh, it's like a monologue
Electro.
on a monologue.
It's pretty
It's
epic.
long. And we love a villain monologue on this show.
I absolutely love it. But I'm not sure whether the choice of words, you think your socks don't smell, is that
Which is funny
threatening.
because that seems like quite schoolboy.
Yeah.
And then Peter Parker was like, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker.
I know. It's quite a job.
Yeah.
And then so they pay off the Spider-Man joke with that.
It's built up like 4 to 5 times to just be, it's actually just Spider-Man.
But it should have Justin Timberlake should come in from the side and go, just get rid of the. Just clean her that way and just walk off again.
Everyone's confused because that won't pay off for years.
Yeah, but it'll pay off.
Someone's watching the social network and like,
But in terms of that entire like interaction, it's like at one point with that Mary Jane saying, "Hey, how much money is that?"
yeah, because he's obviously kidnapped Mary Jane.
It's such a weird thing,
Right? He's kidnapped Mary Jane, taken to the top of the World Trade Center. But at one point, she just joins in.
She's like, "Hey, wow, that's how much money is that?"
He's just curious.
But isn't he just about to kill you? It seems like such a weird thing to say. Man, so much going on there.
Yeah. So, in this next line is written by Academy Award-winning screenwriter Jim. Peter goes berserk.
Yes. Peter goes
He did
berserk.
claim he was going to kill that motherfucker.
That's true.
He fires webs at MJ, jerking her out of Strand's arms before he can react, and then he shoots off. Strand, in a fury, runs to the window, looking down. No sign of Spider-Man. They're on like an observation.
Oh, hang on. I thought they were like on the roof.
No, they're I should
okay.
have clarified. They're on the observation
Okay,
deck.
that makes more sense.
On the roof of the tower.
Okay, good. Here we go.
Is the next line. Spider-Man gets MJ to the stairwell door. So he's grabbed MJ and he's ran off. He rips it off its hinges and he tells her to run. She starts down, then turns back to him,
I love you.
says Mary Jane. And Spider-Man says,
Cool.
No, he doesn't.
he does.
Is that really written there?
Yep. I love you.
Cool. So that's right up there with I
know.
know.
Yeah. I think he's trying to get his I know.
Cool.
Spider-Man turns to see.
Do you know how I would get a slap in the face if the first
you ever
time my
tried it?
girlfriend had said to me, I love you, and I went, cool.
Especially if it was like finger guns, like,
Cool.
Cool are bananas. So Spider-Man turns to see Strand summons a furious force field of electromagnetic energy. Concentrating, uses his electromagnetic force to bend the microwave towers towards him. It topples, falling over. So what he's doing, he's bending the tower at the top of the Twin Towers, right?
Yeah.
He's like, somehow he's using
But
his electricity to...
Yeah, that's what I don't get.
Yeah.
How he can just do
It's treating
anything.
it like a magnet. But he rips it off and it falls between the towers.
So it become like a bridge.
It becomes a bridge.
Yeah, okay.
Sandman leaps onto this bridge and runs across to Spider-Man. Then, in capital letters, the final battle.
Oh.
And it's a real barn burner.
Does it say that?
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Vicious and elemental. I won't bore you with the details right now.
Oh, James.
But it's big.
James, please bore us.
Some of the highlights. A major slugfest with Sandman, during which they pound each other mercilessly and reduce every object in sight to junk. Peter is pummeled, his costume ripped half off. Sandman gets spread around and then reforms. again, Terminator 2 style, I
Oh
imagine.
yeah, that's liquid metal.
Yeah, he'd kind of, I guess, perfected the man coming up from...
yeah.
Spidey sees Strand readying a mega blast. He fires a web at Sandman.
He is a mega player.
Everything about him is mega.
Mega.
He fires a web at Sandman, lassoing him. Just as Strand unleashes a bolt, Spidey drops over the edge, pulling the web taut, jerking Sandman, screaming right into the path of the lightning beam. So Strand's going to shoot him. He's grabbed
Pulled
Sandman
in the
and-
way. The things hit him. But
Yeah.
what does lightning do to sand? Turns it
Wow.
into.
Okay. Jerking Sandman, screaming right into the path of the lightning beam. The furious bright plasma wraps over Sandman, turning him into molten.
Glass?
Correct.
Yes.
Strand summons again. End of Terminator 2. When
Yeah.
they
And,
look-
and then Spidey goes,
Because he was
Hasta
writing
la
this.
vista.
He was like writing this after T2, right? Was the thing.
Yeah.
I reckon he's writing that script, then he turns to his other like little word processor and just says, "Oh, that's good."
that's pretty cool. Yeah. And then Leo says, hasta la vista, baby. Yeah. It's fucking great.
Strand summons.
Oscar.
Strand summons his Amper Rage to a single lethal blast. Strand fires. Peter leaps. In midair, he tags Strand with a loop of web and sails past him over the edge, jerking Strand with him over the side. So he's pulled him off the tower.
side, yeah.
As they fall together down the face of the tower, Strand screams, unleashing bolts of power in all directions. From a distance, it looks like some kind of fantastic Jacob's ladder as the arc lights up the gap between the two towers. Strand's deathfall is one of the most beautiful displays ever seen. What? Like a symmetrical release of energy which created him out of the art and the elements.
Oh.
I don't mind the idea of like the big Jacob's ladder between the towers. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Falling, Peter, fighting for consciousness, fires webs at the wall. It grabs, and he swings towards the tower, slamming against it as the line pulls taut, holding, jerking him to a stop from 100 miles an hour to 0 in 1 second.
Wow.
As Strand rockets past him, still falling, Peter holds the web with all his might, stopping Strand so suddenly that he slams into the steel columns along the side of the building with a sickening smack. Strand is bleeding badly, broken inside, dying. Peter's mask is ripped half off by the fight. He pulls it off his head, showing his face to Strand for the first time.
What's your name, kid?
Parker. Peter Parker.
Peter Parker. So what, you're senior in high school?
Yeah, I graduate next week.
Unbelievable.
And Strand dies.
Oh, wow.
Peter sags, spent. And then he sees a pallet of money. $250 million. People don't notice the cloud at first. A green cloud covering the city. A cloud of $100 bills fluttering out across the city on a brisk breeze, spreading for miles.
Well, when they rebuilt the radio tower, I sort of made it my favorite hang. The money? Cute trick, huh? Like I said, there's more than one way to be a saint. Did it save the world? Nah. It probably didn't save anybody, except maybe me. There was still the small matter of the woman I loved.
Cool. Cool. Again, he's not thinking of the economy.
No.
$250 million injected into a
That's
neighborhood.
a lot of money. The rats will be as rich can be.
Keep a little.
Keep a little.
He
Keep a little.
deserves it.
Well,
Like $1,000.
okay, this is what you do. You send all the money out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But you just send a lot of it to land in Aunt May's back garden, and she just picks it up. Because everyone else is picking it up. No one's saying, oh, I'm stealing this money.
Or look, what if you place it, I don't know, top of a building or something like that. If no one picks it up in 2 weeks, that's yours.
Yeah.
They had their chance.
Yeah. Have you heard finders versus keepers? Yeah.
Yeah, the case of Finders versus Keepers 2000.
Yeah, it's a legal precedent.
So Peter and MJ get their grade back on their science project.
Oh my God, this science project is doing my head in. It's
What
been going
grade
for 6 months.
did they get, Eden?
I think they got an A+.
A+. She thanks him for helping her see the wonder of things. She kisses him, and whoa, wait a minute. Why does that kiss seem so familiar?
My God. Peter? Are you really him? I mean,
They go back into kiss, just as Flash grabs Peter by the shoulder and drags Peter by the arm around the corner. He whirls on Peter without warning. And with a lightning roundhouse. He's used so many
Roundhouses.
same things again.
Yeah.
Explosions of glass, roundhouse punches, spying on Mary Jane Watson. But of course, Peter ducks and Flash hits a brick wall. Peter shoots a tiny strand of web to a nearby railing. Flash rushes him, tripping on the silk, and cartwheels into a wall. Poor Flash.
Poor Flash.
Like Flash is a bad guy, but he's getting
slapped a
more
woman.
than his comeuppance.
See, all you do, like, if you hit a woman
Yeah.
in a thing, it doesn't matter. You can just have anything happen to you. You
I
get
like
the
to think
crap
that,
beaten out
like,
of you. It's good.
he cartwheels into the wall and, like, slams his temple against the bricks. He just slumps over.
Well, I like the idea that he cartwheels because he's a gymnast.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey,
So all the kids standing around the schoolyard are laughing uproariously.
oh, so good.
We now cut to Spider-Man, still hanging on the World Trade Center.
Mary Jane and I got accepted in different colleges. When you know it. But we see each other every weekend. Her grades are better than mine, but I blame it on the heavy hours. It's not easy being your friendly neighborhood spider. Takes it out of you. Well, it's a school night. Gotta fly. Be good.
And that is how James Cameron's Spider-Man comes to a close.
Okay. So who is he talking to?
He's like narrating. There's like a conceit because it starts and ends with him hanging off
Yeah.
the tower.
But is he talking to us as the audience? Or?
Yeah, it's more of a voiceover monologue more than him talking directly to the camera, Deadpool style.
I want him down the
Yeah,
fourth
yeah.
wall.
Oh,
Straight to
hello.
the barrel. I didn't see you there. I'm Spider-Man.
I guess I'm just hanging around because Peter Parker would make those kind of jokes.
Yeah, big time, big time.
Yeah, it's like a voiceover narration more than talking to the camera, which is something that, like, that's a big thing in comic books. Is like you often hear the inner monologue of the character, it seems surprising to me that no comic book movie has really done that. Batman is a big one. Batman is always detecting things in like balloons and stuff above.
He's the world's greatest detective.
A Batman movie should have like a voiceover monologue like that because that's how the comic's written.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Yeah,
Or maybe
that's-
the Batman will do that.
Maybe it's just Batman. It's cleaner.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
So, what happened to James Cameron's Spider-Man? Well, I'll let the man himself, Jim, as I like to call him, explain a little bit.
Well, Spider-Man was always my main man growing up, and I actually rescued that project from the kind of the ash heap, and started to develop it when I was at Carolco. Then Carolco went bankrupt, and then eventually it got resurrected at Sony with Sam Raimi, and now it's on its next generation after that. I'm not going to touch Spider-Man now because I think they've got that in my hands going.
So, some low-res audio there, but he said that Carolco went broke. And then they ended up selling to Sony, who makes the Spider-Man movies to this very day. But it gets a little more, that's a very simplified version of it.
Yeah.
So when James Cameron agreed to make Spider-Man, Carolco lawyers simply used a previous Terminator 2 contract as a template. And a clause in this agreement gave Cameron the right to decide on the movie's advertising and credits. Show business trade articles and advertisements made no mention of Goylan.
I remember Goylan from the
Now-
start of the episode.
Now, what was Goylan's one?
So he had to be the producer.
He had to be the producer. It was like his vanity project. So show business trades made no mention of Goylan, who was still actively assembling elements for this film. In 2003, Goylan complained publicly and finally instigated legal action against Carolco for disavowing his contractually guaranteed credit as a producer. On the other hand, Cameron had the contractual right not to credit him.
So it was a chicken and the egg
But
situation.
this whole thing came down to two egos One being like, my name must be on the movie in the poster. And then James Cameron saying, your name will not be on the movie or the poster. And he kept suing Carolco until eventually they went broke because they wouldn't add him as a producer to the movie. Eventually, Carolco sued Viacom and Columbia, and the two studios countersued Carolco. It ended up in this like cavalcade of lawsuits all around this one guy wanting producer credit. 20th Century Fox contested Cameron's participation, claiming exclusively on his services as a director under yet another contract. So in 2006, Carolco, 21st Century, and Marvel all went bankrupt.
Wow.
So people were suing people left, right, and center. They were suing him while he was suing him.
Sued.
So...
And nothing got made.
Goylan suing because he wasn't a producer, and James Cameron saying, I'll never do it. But then 20th Century Fox suing James Cameron because they're like, no, you need to direct movies for us under your contract. But then you also had Carolco and Viacom and Columbia all suing each other and then being countersued by the other people.
This is insane.
Yeah.
You always hear about all the rights to all these comic book things being so like complicated and everyone owns it, but that's insane.
That's insane. But it's funny because if they had have just given him the credit, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, well, we would
and
have
it's
a
just
James
this
Cameron
weird
Spider-Man.
James Cameron ego thing.
And he probably would have never made Titanic.
No, that's the thing. So we've got one more quote of James Cameron talking about the cancellation of this movie.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was kind of nowhere. Canon, which was a very low-budget film company back in the 80s, had it briefly. Nobody had really done anything with it. The Marvel Comics characters in general weren't being developed very well at that time. And I got Carolco to buy Spider-Man, and I was gonna launch that as a series of films. And I wrote an initial, quite extensive treatment, I think 80 or 90 page treatment on it. Then again, when Carolco collapsed, those rights were in play, and I didn't pursue it because I was on to Titanic and I was doing other things. But Spider-Man was the coolest. When I was a kid, I mean, that's to me there was all the other superheroes and there was Spider-Man. So having not gotten Spider-Man, it's not like I'm looking around for the next comic book character.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, do you think, because everyone's always kind of says, like, imagine if James Cameron made Spider-Man, he must be so sad that he didn't get to. Do you think as a consolation prize, making the biggest movie of all time would have satiated his disappointment?
Because I honestly don't think that this Spider-Man would have become the highest grossing film of all time. No. I don't think
that. And it's interesting because, like, let's say he made this, which means I'm sure he was always going to make Titanic, but that gets pushed back 5 years.
Yeah.
The cast probably changes of that movie. The social, like,
I just realized
energy.
Leo's in Titanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he would have aged up now, like 5 extra years. Would he still have played the young guy? Would Kate Winslet have been too old?
No, you know who would have played him?
Who?
Tobey Maguire.
Oh, yeah.
How about that for an alternative universe, my friends?
Imagine you've got Leonardo DiCaprio, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Jack Dawson.
Then suddenly fast forward, you've got Tobey Maguire in The Revenant winning an Oscar.
Imagine the Great Gatsby movie, but reversed.
Oh my God, this universe rules.
You've got Tobey Maguire doing the rays of the glass.
Love it. Love it.
That's interesting. Now, question we always ask at the end of this show. Given you've just read the words of James Cameron here, you've heard some scene recreations. Do you want to see James Cameron's Spider-Man?
I think one thing comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Cool. I think it's cool. Yeah. I think with Leo in it and stuff like that, I think it's really cool. Ultimately, I don't like what they did with the villains.
Yep.
I think they sort of miscast some of the villains, and it doesn't feel like it has that big arcing like story, like that really big.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a huge blockbuster, does it?
No, it doesn't. In terms of the scale, and they talk more these days about how like everyone got that superhero fatigue because everything has a world-destroying blue laser in it, and one of the reasons that people really like Deadpool was it was just a little story about him trying to get his girlfriend back. But this being one of the first big comic book films, you sort of need that scale a little bit more. And it's not like I'm going to destroy the city or anything like that. It is just, hey, come and work for me, mate. And then he ultimately doesn't and kills him.
I'll tell you why I don't want to see it.
Okay.
There's a few reasons. One, this is a theme in a lot of cancelled movies, as we're discovering rapidly throughout this series, is that some characters are sex pests.
Yes.
I don't like that element. I don't like the constant spying. But the thing that I find really weird is that James Cameron is like, it seems like, I guess, the most fundamental, if you don't really understand Spider-Man, this is probably what you do. The idea that Spider-Man is like a spider.
Yeah.
He's like evolving into a spider.
He's really drilled down into the spider aspect of the man.
He makes love like a spider.
Yeah.
He has the real silk. And Strand even says to him, you are a spider.
Yeah, you're a predator.
You need to kill like a spider. He's drawn to the darkness out of his bedroom window.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No, it's not. I think what the Tom Holland Spider-Man's capture is that youthful sort of fun.
Yeah.
And I think it feels like there's little elements of that, like, you know, when he's doing the stuff, he's trying to dance for quarters and stuff like that.
Reminds me of like
But
Shazam.
Shazam, sort of. Yeah, very good, reference. But it ultimately falls more into that, I'm a bit dark, and it's a bit, that where it's got to keep that lightness of this 17-year-old kid.
Yeah. I loved the VCR technology.
I loved it. I loved the villain lair. I love a film with people in wetsuits.
Yeah,
consistently.
There's two sex scenes in this movie. One is in a wetsuit, and one is
a spider mating ritual.
A spider mating ritual with bondage.
And just a lot of...
Why are we making this podcast?
Well, mate, because the people need to know. Because too many people are out there going, James Cameron Spider-Man would have been the best film ever.
Yeah.
Have you heard it? Have you listened to it? No.
If you have someone that has said the words, James Cameron Spider-Man would have been awesome, send them this episode.
And because this is a public service we're doing for people here.
We don't want to do this.
No.
We hate this.
I know. I could be doing anything else. But we do this for the people so they know that next time one of their mates goes, hey, do you know James Cameron was going to do Spider-Man? It was going to be the best film ever. You can go,
bondage sex
stop
scene.
Right there. Do you think Leonardo DiCaprio wailing his arms around like a mating spider is cool?
Yeah.
No.
Do you think spying on a woman as she gets changed is cool?
No. These are the facts. These are the facts that are on the table right now. So ultimately, I think we're passing on this.
It's going to be a no from us.
Yeah, it's a hard no. It's a hard pass.
Well, we have come to the end of the very weird project that was James Cameron's Spider-Man. We hope you enjoyed this episode and this movie, and we would love it if you could subscribe. We don't care if it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. We're happy to have you as a subscriber, and it really does help us get discovered in the charts. It would also be terrific if you could leave us a 5-star rating, or most importantly of all, tell a friend. We are completely independent here at Cancelled Movie Report, so your support really does mean the world to us. What do you think of the movie? And did we miss anything? We would love to hear from you. You can always get in touch with us via cancelledmovies@gmail.com or @cancelledmovies on all of the socials. And hey, maybe you have a cancelled movie project you've always wanted to hear about. Why not let us know? You can fill out a form in the episode description alerting us to a project, and we may just give it the Cancelled Movie Report treatment. I'm Michael Campbell. I've hosted and edited this episode, and Eden Porter was my co-host too, and we both produced the show. We would also like to thank our amazing voice cast, especially our Leonardo DiCaprio Spider-Man, all of which are listed in the episode notes. Now, make sure you are listening next week because we have unearthed a little gem of a movie that you may not have even heard of. We're talking about Green Arrow Escape from Supermax. Make sure you're listening next week, but if you want a little taste, here you go.
Since we have no confidence that a conventional lockup will be able to contain a man in Mr. Queen's abilities, it is the recommendation of this court that he spends the remainder of his life in the only place in the world that could lock him down: the Supermax Penitentiary for Metahumans.
But until next week, take care.